I have to read this ADG disclaimer first. I do not have any or have a financial interest of a product in my talk or with a or any companies offering grant monies for this continuing dental and medical education program. So the program that I constructed from a PowerPoint enables me to do something very more exactly and explain the formula so it's really understood, because it's a communication that I want to give you that's really a concept about what the formula is. So I do that with pictures and with the words off the PowerPoint. So here we go. I'm going to be reading it and I'm going to be going through the slides. Thank you very much. I'm very proud to be in front of my peers today. This is the group that is leading the way in support of a toxic-free dentistry. We're the ones daily recognizing and changing oral conditions with this thrust as our cornerstone. IAOMT is truly ahead of its time. We are the dentists that have grown up to the realities of our practice. What I want to talk to you about today is on the tip of the tongue of awakened dental patients. We get an inkling of what that is by doing a Google search. Just type in "mercury is ubiquitous." Now that means all over the world at the same time, or all over the place at the same time, the word ubiquitous. Now that's an esoteric term if I've ever heard one. The phrase increased its site share from 250,000 in 2009 to 950,000 in 2014. Communication for the world has forever changed with the internet. People are sharing their knowledge, and within this there's an opportunity for us if we grab what it is in front of us. What's on the tip of potential patients' tongues? It's one word, it's health. They're looking for answers, not side effects. For many, true health has been elusive. In our professions, for many dentists, health has not been stated as the major goal. Patients are bypassing the standard ways used to acquire new patients. Literally every dental magazine is proposing we better get busy with our website to create an entrance for our new patients. They're discussing how we should attract them. But the secret is not some new patient vehicle to try, but rather it is to meet this demand that people are expressing by what they're doing with their free actions of inquiry into the internet. They want to be in control of their health and want to find real information they can use. They want to maintain a freedom of choice, and they want someone who understands their desires and will help them. It is true, after all, as dentists, we are being subcontracted to their quest for health. How can we transform dentistry? How can we be relevant in the internet world? By providing a guide or formula to achieve health for the patient, the dentist can immediately give insight and a path to health, one that is inclusive of what we do in natural dentistry. These dentists that try to ignore what patients want will diminish in size, income, and influence, regardless of what association they belong to. I'm speaking of the ADA specifically when I say that, but maybe that should be a disclaimer too. Our cottage industry is patient-driven. Good. But before we do that, let's look at the use of the word natural. We are certainly not carving teeth out of tree trunks or elephant ivory. No. That's not the point. But the point is, we are expressing what we are treating in accordance with what is found in nature. We take the way the human body functions in its ideal state and put that into a standard platform for dentistry. Our end product is physical health. And the formula for that is, would you like to hear it? Okay. Well, okay, structure plus nutrition minus toxicity equals physical health. The formula is critical to our practice of natural dentistry, as it helps the patients and our staff alike to address the correct problems in a way that leads to a lasting solution, not a fix that becomes the source of further problems down the line. This very thing can be an issue if you've ever seen some unhealthy dental campers. And as dentists, I'm sure we all have seen that. So this tool is really a way to communicate, if you'll have it. Patients don't know the finites of dentistry, but they know what a formula means. And if it's written down for them on the internet or if it's explained to them, then they can be a participant. So it is all about them being cause. This product, physical health, we assess in the crudest yet optimum of terms. Now for a moment, let's consider why a person enters my office other than the dental supply salesman. They want something. And it's up to me to figure out what they want exactly and duplicate it exactly. Although they may not just come right out and say it, I literally have to pull it out of them sometimes with hammer and tongs. However, and this is key, if I can help them get into a groove, the correct runway, if you will, to assist them in their think, then right away I become their ally. This is the purpose of the formula. The formula is really all physical medicine does. The formula embraces the three aspects of physical medicine. That's precisely what contributes to their life motion. The less I bypass their natural body systems with all kinds of fancy schmancy, avant-garde, designer drugs and surgery, the more they like me. And the more certain they are in their chosen route to health. It's their chosen route. They choose it. Then they become part of the solution because they chose it. Let's face it, having a body can be a problem as well as fun. However, it is the owner of that body that really decides whether it's ill or well. The terms well and ill are relative terms with wide variability. Ill is a consideration or a thought regarding lack of motion or mobility. We don't revere those people lying in beds in a nursing home like we do those highly paid athletes now, do we? So in essence, physical health is all about motion or the lack of, and exactly what the owner of that body in front of us considers the body should have or want to have with respect to their desired motion. End of story. Having the formula produces a pattern, a template for the direction toward correct treatment with the individual patient. Physical health is not a finite condition or an absolute state that someone finally achieves, but it's a statement of the overall condition of a living organism at any given time. It is the continuing result in present time of the factors of a balanced structure, good nutrition, and no or little toxicity. Structure is the most misunderstood of the three parts of the formula. Within a lifetime, over generations, the body structure changes. Here, from the side view, we see what can happen to the structure from birth to death. In face of accidents, poor nutrition, occupational repetitive motions, leg length differences, and gravity, the body structure can aberrate or move off its optimum position skeletally. Structure, holding the form of the body upright and balanced, permits flows essential for energy distribution to the cells, for unrestricted nerve flows and proper oxidation and detoxification. The optimum or ideal structure is seen in this segment of an opera with Marissa and Andre. Both are erect with heads and shoulders back. This enables optimum motion, and the lungs can fill to capacity, and the conductor's synchronous motions enable the highest and best creations of mobility. Here we're looking at art, body art.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you know that this young lady won the very prestigious Dame Joan Sutherland contest for opera singers in Australia? She won it when she was 19 years old. She's going to sing for you with her magnificent voice an aria composed by Andrew Lloyd Webber from his musical Evita. And of course, she's going to sing the most beautiful song, Don't Cry for Me, Argentina.
Even with the pixelations, you can see the erectness of the body and the power that the person's bringing out to the audience. The audience is spellbound by that physical motion that they can make. In the next video, you see a man walking down the hallway with his back to the camera. Notice the hitch to his gait as he repeats his steps. When we view his smile, it is apparent that his vertical dimension is overclosed by his class 2 jaw relationship. In the frozen shot of his opening, his lower anteriors are apparently quite worn. We are viewing two components of his postural chain that compromises his mobility. He's got a bit of a bounce there, right? To his gait. And then when he opens from his overclosed position, notice the lower anteriors, how they're worn. There is a structurally correct bite position that keeps the head and neck in proper alignment to the rest of the body. But its position can be compromised, affecting the entire health potential of that body's motion. We quantify structural imbalance using the Monitronics K7, which measures mandibular movement and masticatory muscle functions to discover for the patient the occlusal position that's most compatible with the continued state of relaxation and proper functioning. Patients see their jaw joint is slapped back into a place where the blood flow is jammed. They understand why they have problems with the cracking jaw and feeling knots in their trapezius muscles, or have experienced sleep apnea. With K7 results, we can establish the model position that guides all future work with this patient, from single crown placements to removable partials and dentures to complete fixed dental revisions. Here's an example of two cases we've created restoratively. Because there's 7 different definitions to centric relation in the 2005 Journal of Prosthetic Dentistry, the Academy of Prosthodontics main magazine, I realized that there's more than one way to skin a cat. Occlusion, though the key component to structure, stematognathodically, is definitely not agreed upon in the world of dental academics. It is a legal as well as a moral responsibility to verify with existing parameters, conditions, and positions for the patient. Computer programs make it happen. In an experimental project with the St. John Clark Pain Clinic, where they use neurosomatic therapy to restore structural balance up and down the postural chain, we tested the strength and saw the immediate correction to David's spinal column with an 8mm pelvic lift, along with a K7 bite registration from our office. Now let me show you what happened when we create a bite registration that holds the jaw in that relaxed, correct occlusal position as determined with the K7. Let's listen live as Paul St. John discovers what happens when the registration holds the bite in its correct position.
Okay, so now we want to see that the pelvis being level made a substantial difference in your strength, because it's the difference of building a building like this or building it like this.
Right.
Let's check now this bite registration that Dr. Behm has made for you.
Okay.
Okay, and just fit that in and there, I think that. Good. All right, now let's check this. Okay, same position. Ready? Resist. Oh, well, that's substantial. Can you feel how much stronger you got?
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually, when your occlusion is balanced, that even has a bigger effect on the strength of your body. than actually balancing your pelvis. Wow. And the other thing that's real evident is the moment you put that in, your head went like this. Without it, your head is here. Even though your shoulders got straight with the pelvic lift, your head still stayed tilted. But the moment you put that in, now you're completely on the mid-sagittal plane. That's important because it righted your cranium as well as got substantially stronger. What we want to do now is check your spine angle. So we'll put this underneath the ilium, okay, and you've got your registration in, okay. Now we want to look back, okay. Now I want you to just shrug your shoulders because you can see, oh my goodness, that curve has gone. That actually has straightened your spine. Wow. Yeah, it's very easy to see how straight your spine has become. So this is where the angle was substantial. And you see your shoulders are level, your cranial base is level, and your spine is straight. That's a winning combination. Wow. And you get so substantially stronger when the pelvis is level and your bite registration is in. Wow. Great job.
Thanks, Paul.
So we have a straightened spine. That's not supposed to happen within the realm. But clearly the corrected bite position had a tremendous effect on the body's postural chain. Nutrition and structure in the health formula are intimately tied together, and interestingly enough, nutrition seems to supersede structure in importance to life and motion. Nutrition is any substance that provides nourishment essential for growth and maintenance of life. It is now becoming evident throughout many different disciplines that if we give the body what it needs nutritionally, all manner of afflictions will be remedied. Weston Price, a Cleveland dentist in the 30s, traveled to isolated parts of the world to study populations untouched by Western eating habits and found beautiful, remarkably straight teeth, free of decay and resistant to gum disease. He isolated the common denominator among the populations as diet. All were eating foods rich in essential nutrients, high in water-soluble vitamins, and high in mineral content from very cholesterol-rich animal sources like butter, fish, eggs, organ meats, and animal fats. These nutrient resources acted as a catalyst to mineral absorption and protein utilization, promoting good health. Without this nutrition, the minerals, even though plentiful in the diet, could not even be used by the body. According to Weston Price and other dental explorers, tooth decay comes from three factors: not enough minerals in the diet, not enough fat-soluble vitamins in the diet, A, D, E, and K, nutrients not being bioavailable. What we may be eating that passes for food is not nourishment that leads to health.
Dr. Weston Price was a dentist and dental researcher whose search for the causes of physical degeneration and dental decay took him all over the world to live with and investigate the diets of those traditional native populations who were pictures of exceptional health. This included the Swiss, Eskimos, Polynesians, Africans, New Zealanders, and many others, but always in remote tribal communities which had remained on their traditional diets as they were still far removed from industrialized society and modern refined foods. He found that these populations continued to exhibit perfect physical and dental health into old age, and he wrote about the traditional foods that they consumed, which kept them in such fabulous condition. His book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, which the Foundation continues to publish and sell every year, is still the only book of its kind, and his research is still being quoted at current scientific, medical, and nutritional conferences around the world.
What made these people so healthy? Why is it that they didn't have the degenerative diseases that we have today? And there are many reasons, of course. But again, getting back to whole foods, and regardless of what kind of diet one has, because Price's peoples were all different in terms of their diet, depending on where they lived, what the climate was, what kind of soil, for example. But the underlying unifying factor with all of them was that they were not eating refined, revitalized foods. They were eating foods which were grown in the area in which they lived, which meant they ate foods that were seasonally ready to eat.
When Dr. Price began his travels back in the 1930s, he found degenerative disease was on the rise back then.
Price looked upon the mouth, being a dentist of course, he looked upon the mouth as being the window to the rest of the body. And because teeth were more readily accessible and easier to photograph and spot, he obviously emphasized that in his pictures. Most of Price's pictures are people with their mouths open for that very reason. But that was only the tip of the iceberg, because the high incidence of cavities was indicative not only of just poor oral health, but it was indicative of overall skeletal health and overall body health as well. Price took the foods that the societies he investigated back to his laboratory. He had samples sent back there and he analyzed them. And he found, for example, that the food values in those foods in many of the very important nutrients, such as omega-3 fatty acids, which are, as you know, finally being, quote, rediscovered, unquote, almost 10 times higher than what we have in today's diet. Our diets today are very high in omega-6s, which come primarily from grains and grain seed oils. It's a total reversal of the balance between omega-3s and 6s that Price's people had.
Dr. Francis Marion Pottinger Jr. was a medical doctor who is best known for his famous 10-year nutritional feeding study that he carried out with many hundreds of cats.
The fascinating thing about the Pottinger cat studies is that in many ways they tie in with some of Dr. Price's research.
We have to look at Francis Pottinger's studies to make this connection very clear. In the 1940s, he began a 10-year study using 900 cats to determine what effect nutrition had on structure. One group of cats ate nothing but processed foods, and after 3 or 4 generations, the offspring could not reproduce. You can see here they had strength, range of motion, and balance problems. And remember, this degeneration was exclusively nutritionally caused. This gives one pause when considering what today's food is doing to the structure of humans. The evidence is all around us. Poor nutrition begets degenerating structure. In dentistry, that can be seen in the predominance of narrow jaws and the off-register bites.
While working on his father's theory that tuberculosis was linked to adrenal gland deficiencies, he took on the task of standardizing adrenal extracts by using adrenalectomized cats. The cats chosen for the study were apparently in perfect health. They were fed cooked meat scraps from the sanitarium, which included internal organ meats and bones, along with some additional raw milk and cod liver oil. According to all known standards, this diet provided an optimal amount of nutrients. The cats seemed healthy. The adrenalectomy technique had been proven appropriate. Nevertheless, the study suffered from an unexplainably high mortality rate. Raw meat scraps from a nearby meatpacking plant replaced the cooked meat in the diets of certain cats. Within a very short period of time, the operative mortality rate of that group dropped significantly. The raw meat-fed animals began to survive the adrenalectomy extremely well, and they continued on in a superior quality of health. Pottinger was intrigued by what he termed heat labile factors, or put as an experimental question, he asked, does the cooking process somehow render food nutritionally deficient, causing eventual physiological degeneration? Over the next 10-year period, Pottinger observed and recorded numerous physiological changes in the experimental animals and their offspring. Some of the most significant findings emerged as Pottinger extended his study down to the 2nd and 3rd generations. Moving into the 3rd generation of experimental animals, the degeneration was even more pronounced. Here is a 2nd-generation cooked meat mother with her 3rd-generation offspring. She has a male body configuration. Her offspring developed nasal and ocular allergies. Pronounced exhaustion was a typical observation among the 3rd generation of cooked meat kittens, as well as impaired coordination. This 3rd generation cooked meat kitten had over 24 fractures resulting from a failure in development. At this juncture in the study, a most interesting development emerged. The cooked meat cats were unable to successfully reproduce after the third generation. Most were void of sexual interests, and those that had attempted to mate could only produce stillborn litters. On the other hand, the raw meat animals continued to reproduce healthy offspring generation after generation. The notion that specific nutritional factors in food may be destroyed by heat processing is obviously not far-fetched. Physiological deterioration down the generations is quite graphic, and according to Pottinger, the process was found to be reversible only with great difficulty. He did demonstrate that the animals could make considerable gains towards physiological normalcy, but it took 4 generations of a raw food diet before the animals regained their native structure and original level of well-being. The historical work of Dr. Weston A. Price corroborates the Pottinger study by charting the graphic degeneration of primitive tribesmen as they moved from their traditions and dietary customs to the civilized world. And if it is true with human beings, as it is with cats, that nutritionally caused deterioration is passed down the generations, a sobering challenge stands before us.
The take-home message or cliff notes from these 2 videos are dental caries are more a result of poor nutrition from poor soils rather than sugar as the sole cause. The fact is that the depletion of sugars, the digestion of sugars depletes the nutrients from the body, causing an imbalance of minerals such as calcium and phosphorus, which results in minerals being pulled from the bones, causing tooth and bone loss. My thought on nutrition and dental health is that we must examine what we think we know as what causes dental caries. Melvin Page brought to light for me, it was the energy, the minerals, we expend in eating hollow foods that creates a carious oral condition. For instance, how often do you see the identical teeth on the same arch with identical carious breakdown? For example, the mesial of the lower left second bicuspid and the mesial of the lower right second bicuspid. I don't believe this is coincident, or coincidence is often too frequent. There is evidence that bacteria are not the cause of caries because they do not consume processed carbohydrates due to the lack of nutrients in these processed carbohydrates. Interesting, huh? It follows then that structural abnormalities like the narrowed collapsed dental arches with crowded lower anteriors and the genetically missing teeth and the malformed dentition found in today's Western cultures are examples of nutritionally caused structural change. Even though we're living longer, the rise of degenerative disease in the population is happening in concert with the decline of the nutritional value of our food supply. One can die in the hospital eating crisis managed care diet. Such hospital management creations are carried out through the planning of registered dietitians. Why not hop on the condensed nutrition diet of Joel Fuhrman or the paleo diet? Nutrition in our formula is achieved by producing and eating high-density, high-energy therapeutic food fully capable of rebuilding human health. Including minerals, which are actually the carriers of energy. Real nutrition delivers energy which is required to achieve optimum motion. This is borne out with the existing scene of the soils found by Kerry Reams in the United States. The John Frank Kerry Reams connection is a fundamental solution to organics one puts in his mouth. One now can test the potency of his food supply for less than $50 using the BRICS test. But more to the point on our formula, about the connection with nutrition and body structure. It's clear from Jerry Bucco's following slide and Norman Thomas's hypothesis that our skeletal structure and poor nutrition is collectively flushing our human form down a proverbial drain. This slide lends encouragement to the hypothesis that these connected parts form the triad of physical health formula. Throughout life, the human form accommodates, whether it be from the bridging of musculature to facilitate repeated motion or the tucking away of toxins that inhibit our biochemical physiology. The individual body pushes to survive. This brings us to the placement of heavy metals and bacteria into medullary tissues by the human body as a survival hypothesis. When a healthy body neglects using or storing the poisons it encounters and retains its ability to flush these poisons out by this uncompromised structure and nutrition, its survival potential remains high. Symptoms are minor and ineffectual. The lowered potential of any of the three strikes at the physical health of that individual. The triad of these components of the physical health formula keep function at its highest with the ingredients of one's proper exercise and rest. Oral bacteria biofilm, with its 802,000 sites on Google, demonstrate there is interest for the awakened dental patient. The bacterial-laden dead teeth and the periodontal issues that have long been proven and beat to death by the focal infection theory of our forefathers in dentistry. There are several ways to reveal their deadness presence energetically. It is known that autoimmune, local, and even generalized situations occur as a result. The difficulty of expense and letting go of body parts plague the average well patient. Opting for surgery is a last resort for the many physically compromised patients. The promise of ozonation and subgingival air polishing instrumentation of the hygiene department have arisen to be called upon to annihilate these sulcular toxins. Surgical extraction and removal of metals is the holistic dentist's mainstay of activity. This practice will remain with us for our lifetime. Or until physical medicine awakens and separates itself out from the grasp of the pharmaceutical industry mindset. The natural dentistry approach, because of this overall health focus, contains the technologies and practices that represent a leap forward for patients entering the dental profession. We must do everything possible to mainstream these ideas. To that end, we have launched a Natural Dentistry Evolution website to disseminate natural dentistry approaches and as a communication vehicle to anyone who wants to contribute to this dental evolution. I invite you to visit this site, sign up to receive the latest updates on grounds gained. With natural dentistry, we can achieve a better, healthier life for the patient in their own estimation. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope we can be in communication and participate together in achieving improvement. I have a survey of interest up front, so come forward and fill one out. Thank you for everything you do.